our veterans coming back as far as their pensions, as far as their health care going forward. These are not on budget items. These are liabilities that we're going to have to pay for that were incurred just last year. We have a total right now of about $62 billion of unfunded liabilities out there, above and beyond the $14.4 trillion of debt that we have. It's the $63 trillion, $62 to $63 trillion of unfunded liabilities.
So how are we going to pay for it?
Well, we have got to get a handle on the commitments. We cannot overcommit we are.
So we have to repudiate those commitments?
Well, I think we've got to look long term as far as slowing the growth and certainly in the entitlement programs. We've got to, that is the 900-pound gorilla going forward, the commitments that are out there, and to slow down the rate of growth. And the best thing we could do today would be have a strong economy. And what is being done today as far as regulations, not having an energy policy, the tax policies that we have are all stifling growth. Well, and we can resolve a lot of this if we can get the economy going, but we've also got to change the long term. And that's what the whole debate going forward to raise the debt ceiling. If there is not a significant, huge deal, I'm not going to vote for it, and it'll not pass the House of Representatives unless we bend the curve down long term, and that's what we have to do.
No less than Timothy Geithner himself said we cannot, even with the most prosperous economy that you can imagine, with a growth rate of even to 6 to 8%, which is totally unrealistic now. Even with that level of growth, we cannot grow our way out of the commitments, the unfunded liabilities that we now have.
That's right.
It's not possible.
Well, and that's why we've got to bend the curve long term.
What does that mean?
That means to slow down the rate of growth to let the revenues catch up, in essence.
Well, how long, even if you had no growth, how long would that take?
It depends on what you do as far as reduction in long-term spending, it will catch up and the lines will cross, and that's what we have to do. But Jan, we've just got a few years here. I mean, we're in a crisis. If we go 10 years, we're to the point where every dime paid in income taxes, both individual and corporate, to the federal government goes just to service the interest on the debt, to pay that interest to China, and we're going to make Greece look good here pretty quick if in fact we don't get a handle on this and have a serious
everybody
effort
agrees.
Everybody
in the sound
spending.
of our voice agrees with you.
Right.
Now what?
We've got to do it.
I'm ready for that
now.
I'm ready for that serious effort. What does that look like?
What that looks like is on this debt ceiling vote coming up, and supposedly August 2nd is the push drop dead date. There's going to have to be a major deal with the president, with Speaker Boehner, with Harry Reid. We're going to have to come together.
They're not interested in dealing with the issues the way you are.
Then the debt ceiling is not going to be raised. It's just that clear. It simply will not happen. The majority in the House of Representatives will not vote to increase the debt ceiling. I mean, this is
if happens.
If a family has maxed out their credit cards, you don't just call the credit card company and ask for a higher credit limit without changing what you're doing, and that's what we've
Some
got to
have
do.
Implied that if you don't raise the debt ceiling, that automatically constitutes a default.
No.
Why not?
We have revenues coming in. We can pay the interest on the bonds. There's no default necessary. Now, if the Treasury Secretary, I'm sure will try to make it as painful as possible, politically doing different things. But no, we will not default if that happens because we have revenues coming in enough to certainly cover the interest payments, so there will not be a default.
So in essence, the entire budget then, if the debt ceiling isn't raised, then servicing the debt will become the number one priority.
Absolutely. It is. You have to. That's the first thing you have to do is pay interest. That's before Social Security, before Medicare, before Medicaid, before any of the programs out there. You have to service the debt first.
If we continue to do that, even if we did that, we're still in danger of losing the reserve currency status that the dollar has earned.
If we don't do something major Jan, long term, Moody's has already said if we don't make a serious effort to change the spending long term, our rating is going to go down, our interest rates are going to go up. And what I talked about before, as far as what interest is going to cost us in the future, that's assuming the historic low rates today. I mean, treasuries are about 2.5%. Right. Normally, on average, are about 5.5.
I've got to ask this. Give me some clarity on this. Get rid of the Paul speak and all of the stuff that we normally hear. Is the political class, as it's now constituted, capable of doing what you say needs to be done?
Absolutely. In the House of Representatives, we will not increase the debt limit without a significant change long term as far as our spending in this country.
A brief time out, back in a moment at 1040 WH. Congressman Tom Latham is our in-studio guest. This is our last segment together. We're going to have to hustle. This is Vicki. Good morning, Vicki.
Good morning, Jan.
Hi.
And Congressman Latham.
Hi, Vicki. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well here. I do have a major concern, though.
Okay.
People willing to trade their freedom for temporary security deserve neither and will lose both. And I would like to address the horrific enforcement tactics of the TSA, which is America's new Gestapo. If Israel, the most threatened country in the world, can survive and thrive without such blanket intrusion on ourselves, our children, grandparents in wheelchairs, we should be able to too. And the only real difference is that they understand the need and to have the political courage to profile. And the enemy is the same for us. This is the police state camel's nose under the tent. And it is urgent we address this and protect our constitutional right of protection against illegal search and seizure.
Vicki was talking. Thank you, Vicki. I was talking with Congressman Latham off the air about what happened last weekend. TSA employees patted down and searched a 95-year-old woman who was confined to a wheelchair. She's dying, and she has to wear a diaper because she has incontinence issues because she is so diseased. And they actually inspected this poor lady's diaper. That's and the very same week we found out that they're going to be unionized. TSA employees are going to be unionized. That's just another expansion of government programs.
I mean, this issue, and I was on the Homeland Security Subcommittee back when TSA was first initiated, and we have fought to keep the numbers down, to have them have responsible procedures. Everyone understands that there is a threat on aircraft. As someone who flies virtually every weekend back and forth to home in Washington, I'm keenly aware of what's going on, and it is very, very frustrating. That has become a major bureaucratic overreach. They've got somewhere around 60,000 employees where they were only authorized about 44,000 nationwide, and Jan, this is where you come to just some common sense in these things. TSA should know, that individual should know that this 95-year-old woman is certainly not
obviously
a threat.
No. Well, what kind of accountability is there for that kind of egregious abuse?
I'm sure that they will say that they were doing their job and being overly cautious. I mean, when there's no common sense involved.
Congressman Latham, thank you.
Code Green.
Tonight's estimated Mega Millions jackpot is $88 million.